Hello everyone, and welcome to another Friday stream here at Strange Loop Games. And my name is Jens, working as lead game designer here, and we'll keep rolling with your streams and going over and kind of having the privilege and enjoyment of being able to kind of show off all the cool things that we're working on, and everything's kind of new and fancy. I see there's a tutorial on website purchase in the Twitch chat. Yeah, so hey everyone. So this time we are looking at 10.2 playtest release. It's been on staging branch. It finally got nudged down to playtest. Let me just move over things a little bit here. So there we go. So yeah, we have finally moved it down to playtest. We're finally able to say that it's stable enough to do a run on. Currently running on Sea Otter, which I believe went live here. Hopefully, a little bit of desync with myself and Dennis on when that the timer was. I think it was 9. I was gonna check it prior. Oh, it was 6 p.m. So that thing should be live since 3 hours ago. I hope. No one has been pinging me about explosions, so I'm presuming that it's working. We'll take a look at it and hop in here in a bit. So what craziness are we up to now? We've got the smelting rework and the new profession involved, so that's going to be absolutely amazing and thrilling to kind of see how people deal with a new profession. That is something that we haven't really done in a long time. It's been a long time since we kind of did anything to direct profession specialties. So that's going to be fun. We have more of those planned. And we'll also go over a little bit about our art team's optimization stuff. I know the frame rate has been kind of a big topic of discussion in general, either frame rate loss or just the general interactability and kind of the frame rate loss over time as stuff being built, as more complex things are being on scene. Just general improvements in that department. And our art team has been doing absolutely crazy amount of work in that, and I'll give you an example here in a bit as well. And then we'll nudge and sneak peek a little bit about the painting stuff that is going into 10.3 as well a bit later. And as per, just on a general answer in the on the whole key purchase thing. So if you buy the game on the website through any of the packages, you'll need an SLG account, which you can either create beforehand and buy, which then will link to it, or if you don't have an SLG account and you buy it, it'll prompt you with a link in the mail to create one. Once you have that, you can link your Steam to the SLG web system, which then unlocks it on Steam as well. So you don't get a direct Steam key, it just unlocks the license on Steam for you on the account that you link it. And if you get one of the multi-pack things, it gives you a field to send the send copies to, and they'll be receiving the same kind of email. So anyone that is getting an invitation from someone will also be able to create an SLG account, and then they can link Steam and have it on Steam as well. So yeah, I where do we start? There's so much stuff. And I'm also super stoked about the 10.2 actually getting into public hands now, so I can get some people can give those recipes and costs a run for their money, so I can get some feedback and probably do some slight adjustments depending on what happens. There are a few key things that I just really didn't have time to do in the full scope that I wanted to do. One of them was do a bit of tinkering with food balance in general. I did a small tweak on variety, which hopefully will make it into the patch notes that Dennis is compiling. So the maximum gain from variety has been reduced a bit. You also have a higher requirement of total calories consumed by each individual item before they account to the variety bonus. So, you know, just chugging something simple isn't really going to cut it. You're going to have to eat a bit more to actually be contributed to that variety bonus. So there's a few minor tweaks in there that is related to food. I also did a pass on clams, kelp, and urchin as well. So they should be growing a bit better. They should also be a little bit more numerous in the world from start. So look forward to that as well. Where do we want to start off? Let's just hop in game, I think, and see where we're at. So if we do this, we've got, is that thing rolling? It is rolling. Look at that. Beta, playtest, 367 build. And right, I'm a little bit ahead, apparently. Did that just deploy? That is unfortunate. Why are we always starting out like this? Let's start the stream with poking Dennis. And go, hey, version update. Something happened. Always something, ain't it? See if that resolves itself. Oh, never. Hang on. I know what's going on here. Let's ignore the painting thing. I know what's going on. We need to hop in here. Let's nuke QA mode, otherwise we might get kicked out. And I believe Sea Otter. Yeah, there we go. So the playtest build on Sea Otter. I might as well do this on stream so people can actually see how to do it. If you want to join in on the playtest, so if you're running on Steam, you can go into properties of Eco, and then you go into the beta tab, and then you select the 10.2 playtest, and that should keep you up to date with the actual build used on the playtest itself. That should let me get in on it. Yeah, see, there we go. Now we have a join thing. While that's humming and rummaging around, we can take a look at it since it was out there. Where did you go? There you go. So on the painting, and I know this is going to be a huge thing, and I look like I'm irradiated here because of the white background. So on the painting things, we have a new work table where you mix and assort paintings, and how that system is going to be working in is going to be its own devlog slash stream thing, because we have some interesting cool ideas. But I presented the asset a little bit on I think it threw it up in dev hangout or somewhere earlier, but some concept on how it came to be, basically from idea to idea on paper to idea in game. So I think I have another image of the actual 3D asset here somewhere that I can show up later. But this is essentially going to be the painting workstation. later on. But we finally managed to get ourselves onto Sea Otter. So on here, we do this, and I'm personally not a fan of the 3D map. It's one of those things where, like, prove me wrong kind of things. I like the 2D map because it gives me a bit more control. If you have a preference for the 3D map, let me know why or how, and kind of how come you like it over the 2D map kind of thing. Oh yeah, immersion. That is true. That is true. You do get that whole I know the world is around kind of thing versus just a map on. Oh boy, this map is interesting, ain't it? Yeah, it looks a bit beefier. Like it gives you that kind of globe in the library spin fun thing. But I'm just too practical. Like, I want to know the distances between 2 points and kind of where things end, where things go about. So what do we want to do this time? And there's a little sad splotch of desert right here, or if that's gold maybe. You can see the terrain height easily. Yeah, that is true. That is true. It is hard to see height differences, especially with the mountains and kind of canyons. It's much easier to kind of get the full the full scope of how tall mountains are, or how well optimized the terrain is to actually build cool things surrounding it. Maybe we should just kind of chill out in the desert, see what's going on. Build a little bit of a harbor hub thing. We'll see. Start near pioneers. Oh, I got the trees disabled, which is why they weren't showing up. I had everything kind of disabled from the get-go, just because I like to have a clean map. Yeah, I believe they're hidden by default on static thing. Actually, we can check that. Environmental data, and then we go biome, and then we go deep ocean biome. So we have, go over to 2D map to properly see this. Yes, we have one that's straight across vertically. So that's interesting. That is making it a very peculiar thing. So you can go eastwards, but you can't go westwards if you're on the desert side. So there's no shortcut over here without boating. Otherwise, you're gonna have to kind of drive all the way over from left to right. Let's have a look-see around this. So one of the things on Sea Otter that we're testing out with this playtest is exhaustion. So on here we're using exhaustion with a little bit more of a leeway hour thing, so people can play to their heart's content without being too constrained by it, yet still be able to kind of use the system and test it out and see how it works on a live server with more people, hence the playtest for it. And as mentioned, the playtest got kind of 3 major parts. One, the smelting blacksmithing split, the exhaustion, and the injunctions for civics. So when someone has a law in a town, you can nuke the law if you're in a country instead. You basically say this law is no longer valid, bam. We've got the exhaustion thing going on here, and it limits the amount of stuff that you can do or put labor into, and or chop trees, cut stones, and so on. Is it happy now? It's happy now. And then we can just skip the rest of it. Let's see where we're at and what we've got going here. So I'm thinking, like this place down here is nice because you got a little bit too cheeky. World Gen is something that we are going to be looking at throughout here, as well as I'm making continuous tweaks to things and experimenting a bit with it. So we'll see where and how that changes throughout here up to 1.0. Heard you mention something about needing more food variety. It's not so much needing more food variety as I reduced, did a small balance tweak for it, so reduced the maximum the maximum level of variety you can reach. As well as increasing the calories required to attribute something towards it. The prickly pears it's probably because there's a biome transition going on here. So the grassland's kind of leaning in a little bit into the desert, and the desert's leaning in a little bit into the grassland. So it's kind of a mixed patch in between the two. So there's just enough growth ranges to be in that adjacent zone. How does the refresh timer used with exhaustion work? I'm not ignoring the building material. I think it's relevant, but it'll be brought up here. Thought it was a visual indicator on the regular map for deep ocean. No, it's always kind of been looking bluish. I think we might need to tone that in. It's a good suggestion. I probably want to deepen the tone of that color for it, so it does stand out on the minimap. How does the refresh timer used with exhaustion work? Essentially, it's just from the tooltip changes now, you see when that next refresh is happening. And you also see how much time you get when that refresh is happening. And the refresh happens on server set UTC time now. So it's no longer set inside on in the game time, which it used to be, which wasn't really working for a lot of people. Because if someone has been, away for 2 days and they come back and then the server hasn't been running for 2 days, they still don't have any time. So it was kind of, it made sense for progression in the game, but it doesn't make sense with what the mechanic is supposed to be doing, which is alleviating and helping people's scheduling and real life kind of contribution to it. So we were kind of shuffling around it. Can admin set the reset time twice a day? You can set it to. You can set the. So the refresh timer is always doing kind of the next day. So if you're on Monday, it'll register on Tuesday and so on, and the refresh timer is set on a 24-hour cycle. So if you change it down to 12 hours, it'll be twice a day. But there's a lot of variables to it, and a lot of new settings for admins to kind of dig into. So don't hesitate to kind of pull up, just hop in on the branch, pull it up, and start it and see what the new config templates are looking like, and especially with the GUI for the server UI. This looks a little bit desolate on anything resembling trees. Although there's plenty of animals and plenty of water, we can do some fishing if necessary. Let's see, there's someone. I think there's someone living down here, starting to build a bit of a harbor thing. Maybe we should do something down here. Yeah, let's do that. Madness, those trees in the desert. No, it's I really enjoy the view on the desert now, with all the changes I did to it, because you have small patches of growth and vegetation, but most of it is fairly empty, wide spacing, and then people can repopulate, grow stuff, and plant things crazily in it if they wanted to, but oh, one thing I wanted to make so is when you eat loads of garbage to queue jobs, it impacts your bonus for longer, like a week. Will that be possible? That there is it's an interesting implication. I want to have that there, and it's a very good question. Maybe we should open that up. +5 reputation. Hello stream. Hey Waylon. Actually, let's do it here. It has some interesting implications and applications that can be used. But it would have the side effect of your general skill is harder to kind of push further up by that, but maybe we could do it as a config thing and be change it out to a public variable. Have one question: is the carts getting suddenly teleported topside when a mine in or tunnel supposed to be like it, or is it being worked on getting fixed? Oh no, see, we feel that carts just transcend the physical plane. So we figured that, you know, carts should be teleporting up and down. It just makes sense because we know that you have some Vulcan translocation beacons involved in them, and they just hop up and down. No, it is a bug. It is. And Juan has been diving absolutely crazily deep into the whole chunk loading prioritization and kind of how that whole system works. So what generally ends up happening at the moment is that vehicles kind of spawn in prior to the chunk being completely loaded, which makes it fall through the world, and we have a deep penetration system that tries to make sure that nothing, like if anything has a minus position, it teleports to the top of the chunk to make sure it falls on the surface. And so the load prioritization and the load system in itself is being a bit mischievous and misbehaving, which is why you have things like not only, you know, carts and vehicles, but also rubble and trunks and logs and whatever else. And he's been doing a crazy amount of investigation and rejigging of that system, and there is a pull request open for playtest. It's still being kind of debated whether or not it's stable and suitable to go into playtest, depending on the potential ramifications. So we'll see. If it does make it in there, there's a good chance that a lot of the cases for random teleportations gets resolved. But we'll, you know, if it happens, you'll notice it on Discord, I'm presuming, and it would also make it into the patch note if it does get fixed. So keep your ears to the ground, kind of thing. But we are aware of it, and there's some crazy things going on for it. Speaking of moon carts, any news on elevators stopping at exact floor height? We've got some ideas for it. There's some plans for it, but nothing has really, you know, no one has really had the time to dig into it, as I'm pulling out my shovel. But we definitely have some ideas towards what we want that to do, and we want kind of elevator flooring system, like next floor kind of thing, going on. changes to mining recipes. Rockerbox screening machine converted to static instead of dynamic here to stay. Which recipes are you talking about? They shouldn't be that. Well, we can take a sneak peek since we're on here. No one really minds all that too much. Just gonna do that, and I'm gonna hop in there, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna grab that. Plunk. There we go. If anyone ever wondered how the tech tree works, this would be how it's looking. They shouldn't be static. Well, the concentrate shouldn't be, but the so the way it works is crushed ore into concentrate is not static in the rocker boxes, and if they are you not this time. I've got the concept for the actual tools for it, but I'm not gonna go into super mechanical. Yeah, I'm the alien view. Are you on a local build, or are you on the Sea Otter playtest, Bob? Get a campfire going, get a tool bench and a workbench. Oh yeah, just send me a DM. I got my axe on me as well. Let's just ravage a cacti here. It's a little bit late with the timber, and a little bit loud. Maybe that's just on my end. Let me know if the game audio is way too loud, or just me having very loud volume settings locally. Where can I report if I heard a song from Eco in mobile game from App Store? Send Dennis a DM. Association. If you are on the Discord or have joined the Discord, send a message to our community manager Dennis with details, and he can take a look at it. Also, Brandon, hi, hello. Yeah, there's vehicles and their associated limitations, in particular when it comes to that one, is probably going to be a post 1.0 thing, but it's definitely something that will be interesting to tackle. Is there anything planned for piping through walls on floors without having to break the blocks there / have a gap? Yeah, we have. We want to take a look at utilities, pipings, and just blocks in general. So at the moment we have kind of water works in kind of a different phase than other blocks, so they can kind of coexist inside the same space. And we want to do the same type of scenario for pipes and so on, so you could embed pipes into different blocks. But it's stuff that's on the want to do things, but haven't really had the opportunity to dive into it because we have a lot of other things that are planned beforehand. Yeah, I'm still a bit confused about the Arastra and the crushers should be static, but nothing else. And if they're not, it is quite possible that you are running something. If you have a mod or anything that's lingering in the background, because it should mostly be backwards compatible with 10.0, 10.1 thing. I haven't really changed anything significant in the template for that stuff, what I can remember. I mean, I've done weirder things. Too hungry to do that. Oh no! What on earth am I going to do? Do I just want to eat the giant cactus fruit? Probably. Oh, see, that was delicious. We want to grab that campfire. I want to grab that workbench. On here, we want to have a new stockpile as a first priority. So the question is, how speedy is things gonna be? We almost got masonry up. Someone is doing smelting. And we have that blacksmithing here, which is it's this whole tech tree thing is needing a little bit of a rework and some love to make it be a little bit cleaner to see and browse. This thing should be down here towards in between tier 1 and 2. Do we want to where? Maybe we should do some seaside food shop thing going on, maybe. Food and tools, all you need, right? Grab players on here as well. That is a carpenter, logging / carpenter most likely, I'm presuming. And we've got some. That's another logger. And that's a mining mason. Do we have anyone doing food nearby? Doesn't look like it. Maybe we should embark on the food route. Do some campfire cooking. Yeah, let's go for that. Yeah, I am on Sea Otter. So now with campfire unlocked, I can do some other cool things here, but I need to scavenge and source some ingredients here, which I'm presuming there's not anyone on here that has gathering that has a shop. do that. I know smelting will be. Do we have any idea if 10.2 will be save compatible? It should be. It'll have a bunch of the recipes are gonna be a bit wonky here and there, but it should work out quite nicely. So when there is two kind of distinct differences when recipes are changed from our side. So or three cases, I guess. It's when recipes are being added, so brand new ones, that is new addition to the game. An existing recipe gets altered either by moving it around from one workstation to another, or having a new ingredient, or so on and so forth. And then the case of a recipe gets outright removed. Now, in the first two cases, I need to hop around and get a little bit more comfortable here in this chair. In the first two cases, there's not a lot of potential implications. So when a recipe is adjusted, any existing recipes that are in queue, so you have a work order for this particular item already, it won't be affected by the change. So if you're crafting, you know, steel axes, and I move steel axes from being crafted on the anvil to being crafted on the grindstone, or a power hammer in this case for the steel, the old queue is still going to work, and it's still going to be fully viable, but it's not going to be changed, and it's not going to stop working. But you won't be able to start a new work order of that type on the workstation. So you're going to have to start a new work order on the new station, can adapt to those changes. This is both positive and negative, because if there's a reduction in cost to craft these things, you're going to have to cancel it, and you may lose labor doing that. However, if there's an increase in cost, then, you know, you can kind of cheap out and not cancel it, and you can still have that cheaper recipe. And that's just kind of unfortunate side effect of balance things while in a cycle. But that's always going to be true for any, you know, for someone around. So that one is kind of hard to avoid. Let's see. Someone is selling stuff. Ooh. Geology, gathering research papers. Dendrology, agriculture. Well, that's not too bad. So if I grab... What can I do with terra roots? I can do fun things with terra roots. Can use it for root campfire. Together with camas bulbs. Do we have any camas bulbs somewhere in the world? No one's selling camas bulbs, but I guess we'll have to shovel some camas bulbs. Throw in some fuel. And then we do some... Do I just want to be a heretic and do some grilled, some sharded tomatoes? Or do I want to use them as vegetable? Probably want to use them as vegetable. We do that. Do we have any huckleberries being sold in the world? No. And fiddlehead's probably going to be the same thing. Wolfman. You are buying some timber. That seems to be a sensible place to start. So if we just control click that. Cut that down, and then we do markers. Did we not get... We can set a marker down here. Apparently it didn't want to drop a marker. Let's just do food store. Look at that, fantastic. And then we can grab. Let's do some shard fish. Just some shard. There we go. Do that, add that. Yeah. Stores, as mentioned. From my experience, setting stores is very cumbersome. In my opinion, one of the major contributors to players tend to group together with and barter community systems, which kills the economy. I see now all the active people from Giant Panda hopped over to Sea Otter. Yeah, it's the playtest. Always attracts all the people around. Well, on the store thing, there's kind of two things that is tricky. One of them is bartering is difficult. Like it is not simple. It's figuring out kind of what you want to charge for things, what's reasonable. If people get upset that, hey, you know, you're charging this amount of money for this thing, you should be charging this. But that's also a difficult thing to say because you might be perceiving very distinct different things and values very differently. Where is the closest path to getting food from there? It is down there and it is over that water. Ooh. Well, you know, let's just do. Actually, we're probably gonna need some more pieces of meat before we go down there. We also have a forest here. Do we have some huckleberries? If we go environmental data and we go plants and we go yield potential, or sorry, population, and we have our huckleberries here. That is up in the cold forest over there. We got some mushrooms. Mushrooms we have. Clams is probably tricky. Beets up in the grassland. Camas bulbs would be nice. We do have camas bulbs. Let's sneak some camas bulbs. Being a bit heretical with not having gatherings, stealing these. If I can find my way up here without having to interact too much. Here we go, we got some camas. Where did the camas go? Is the camas not ready? There we go. I don't know what happened to the first camas bulb. It tricked me. If we want, say, 50 camas bulbs, probably gonna be fine. So I'm looking at making that root campfire. Which means I got the greens. Or close to. I can get some agave. And I just need that taro root as well. Which I want to buy. Let's find some more camas bulbs. Oh yeah, let's have a look and see. That is interesting. So kind of got distracted. Bob was sending me that screenshot of things being static, and it seems like it, but I know personally that I haven't done it, and there hasn't been any changes to the tech tree in that regard. So I'd like to know if you happen to have any mods running in the background, or if you have some specific changed settings config wise. just do sneaking some fiddleheads as well. Look at this craziness. Stealing all the crops in the world. Oh no. I'll server created from the in-game server creation options. Make sure that you don't have a mod running, and also check the difficulty setting. Someone arrest him. He's stealing all the crops in the world. It's disappearing. We'll leave one. That gives us a couple to kind of deal with. Be nice to have some rice as well. Should have made a hoe before, so I could. Yeah, right. I need a scythe with me. I don't have a sickle. Guys fixing the missing blocks when mining. Are you talking about the rubble? Snow Queen? I believe that is related to Juan's work on the chunk loading as well. When there's no food tomorrow, we'll know why. Ice stole it all and made it into food. Oh, is that not how you harvest tomatoes, with a machete? I was so confident. Wax it down. No, I'll casually build a little food store, and then we'll see if it decays and I get preoccupied with just general stuff in work-wise, and it falls into decay and someone takes it over or claims it, and it falls apart. But on since painting has been, you know, a topic thing here for a bit, I think we can kind of hop in over into let me see if I can do that. So we had this table, as you saw. So this is going to be the workstation where you're interacting and kind of poking at, and as some people have been discerning, it is CMYK with white in it, and it's super bright. So I'll switch around from this image here in a little bit. But we have some ideas about how to do this in an interactive state. So you're at the moment, and I don't want to say too much about it because it's still being kind of poked, prodded, and see what we can do out of it. But the general idea is to actually mix stuff. Oh yeah, coffee machine. Yes, that grinder, finally in there. But no, so the general idea is to be able to use different colors and mixing them together, to avoid the issue of having like a gazillion recipes in a work table for each individual color. So we've got some cool ideas that we're testing out and seeing what works. So hence why I don't really have a whole lot practical to say about it, because we're still very much testing on, like, the system works in terms of you can pick a color and you can apply it in the world on a block. That whole system and server side and everything works. So that's done. What we're testing out and experimenting with right now is how we want players to actually acquire the colors versus just plain old crafting recipes for each individual one. So, you know, we'll come back with that on a dedicated stream for the paints and like the whole system, and do like a proper run through. But we have some cool ideas that Mike is still thinking. Alpenglow, no, that's the thing. We kind of don't want that, and that is the craziness of it. As for ingredients for the raw input base pigments. We have a few like selected things. So we've got copper for green, we have iron for red, we have some different flowers and crops for other colors. So there's a bit of a mix between mineral colors versus non-generic one, and so there, you know, there's a bunch of cool things there that we can kind of go over and break down once we have a pure out stream for it. As for paint decaying over time, that is its own kind of can of worms in terms of performance issues. Hitsu, you've got magenta from urchins. Bornik, what? Static hewn logs? Is that on the carpentry table, or what is going on? I'll take a look at it anyway. Anyway, so you know, to kind of tease up with this, so urchins actually have a use. You can turn them into food, but now you'll also be able to turn them into pigments. So you know, more things coming, and more kind of systems operate and shuffling around. So that is where you're creating the paints. Now, for applying them, we've got some cool new concept from Milenko for the different tiers and utilities in actually applying the paint. So this will be the early game and kind of the primitive leather, wood, like crude metal parts. And then you have the mechanical era where you're involved into more higher quantities / you know, a little bit improved quality of life, fancier. It's coming into industrial mechanical era thing. And then you have late game modern kind of plasticky compressed air kind of thing. Armored, no. So we initially were thinking about doing like a paintbrush, a roller, and like a spray gun at the modern era. But Milenko really liked the idea and kind of went absolute crazy on the paint guns here. So we kind of just went with it because it looked cool, it seems fun, and it kind of gives you a sort of a style to it from the start to finish. Just kind of upgraded versions of it instead of completely different tool types. So that's some you know, some cool stuff to look forward to. Da Vinci styled sprayer, yeah. So you know, it works. It works in the same kind of pump style thing, whereas you know, you got your like the water spraying bottles that you have in when you're doing like getting a haircut or something, or for, you know, plants and whatnot. But yeah, so we're experimenting a little bit on like durability scale. If we want to limit it to kind of like if you'll have the durability on the tool themselves, but also the consumable for the actual paint itself. If we want them to be, you know, the primitive ones are worse at retaining, or you get less paint out of the same paint quantity. Now we just need a Da Vinci helicopter. Oh boy. But there's a lot of experimentations for it, and it'll be cool. It'll be fun. It's gonna be a blast getting into it, and I think everyone's gonna appreciate what we have planned for it. And to kind of keep up with some changes, upgrades, and things, I've got another asset in here that has been upgraded visually, both size and visual, that isn't in game yet. It's something that you see late game fairly frequently all over the place, and art team has been kind of going over and on the to kind of continue with the optimization run that we keep parroting and saying like, hey, we're focusing on optimization, we're really looking into it, and it is a big source of feedback across the board. And some of it is code-wise in terms of direct memory handling and where things are going and how it's being flushed and so on and so forth. But a lot of it is also related to how technical things are and how they're being rendered on screen. So not just, memory leak per se, but actually memory occupying because things are bulky and cumbersome for the system to actually display and run and show off. So the art team has been going crazy the last year and this as well. And it one of the things that Toby has been tinkering with and improving with is decals. And what this does is, instead of incorporating all the kind of all the bits, pieces, metals, and bobs that's sticking out and so on, instead of doing them directly on the assets themselves, which increases costs of the assets in terms of rendering and display costs, Toby has been kind of digging into making decals possible in terms of doing depth scale that we can apply to models that has extremely low cost relation to the quality that they are displaying. So a lot of the new objects and the new visual upgrades are using these things that just massively increases performance for very... It's a weird cost-win relationship. So we have bigger, better looking objects now, but they have substantially improved frame rate displaying multiple of them. So as you can see here, you have that kind of height differential and depth to these things, yet they're not actually a part of the model itself. And it is a fairly frequently used technique across the board, but now we've adapted it to a version of it to be properly used inside the Ecos environment. And one of the things that it was applied to in particular is the wind turbine, which Toby did a bit of a frame rate test scenario to kind of give you a bit of a display and kind of hard facts about how much of an improvement some of these things are. So here we see a whole chockload of wind turbines, and this is a still frame, so don't worry, it's not a video. You're not supposed to see them running, because as I came up with, I could grab this into stream as well. Toby's on the opposite end of the world and is asleep. Yeah, so late game, you often see quite a bit of wind turbines, a bit here and there all over the place. So it's one of the bigger assets that we have that is moving and kind of doing things. And as you can see here, you've got a detailed statistics for how many tris, how many verts, the resolutions, shadows and everything, as well as the frame rate for this scene. So this is the old wind turbine. And this is one of the newer upgraded assets for it. Color pending, obviously. But the wind turbine is getting bigger. The blades is getting more kind of wind turbine-y blade. And note the performance improvement on it, going from 120 FPS with the old model, with a new model upgraded, has more detail and is bigger, bumped up to 202 frame rates. And that's just kind of an example on how much of an improvement the art team is really spending time and digging into these assets and making sure that red, white, and blue. Just making sure that all the new assets that are coming into the game has a certain level of quality to them, but also using more of the techniques that are available to better optimize and improve the frame rate of everything around them and the environment. So as we march towards 1.0, we'll be seeing more and more of these assets come into play. Not just new ones, but also old ones getting a facelift and kind of reworked and all of that. So yeah, there's a ton of things that are going into this going on, but I'd say almost a frame rate improvement from almost 100% from just wind turbines is pretty hefty, and it would probably not be out there to say that it's probably going to see similar things across the board for all of the bigger assets, at least as things gets churned around and poked at. We got a new model for the water wheel that is looking pretty impressive. It's a lot bigger, and with occupancy changes, there is that red flag of it might eat adjacent things. So when we do add things that will have occupancy changes, we'll alert and kind of flag that in the patch notes. But do try to read the patch notes if that is of concern. Just because it has that risk of, if an object goes bigger, it's gonna gobble up things surrounding it. So you might need to kind of pick things up before you migrate and update the server. But if that happens, it should be in the patch notes. Go Gadget Goose, how to fix Eco as it's constantly crashing. Hop in on the Eco Discord and drop a message in the technical help, preferably with client logs and server log as well. If it's a client crash, just client logs should be fine, as well as system specs as well. How come we can get huge boats, cars, lasers to shoot on meteors, yet hunters are stuck at bow all the way? Why isn't there a later game gun? One of the main reasons for not having firearms is generally to not have firearms. Like, hunting is an unfortunate piece of violence that we have to make, it fits with acquisition of meats, especially early on, but generally exposing it to animals and so on and so forth. But on a whole, it's very silent, it's very quiet, it's not very disruptive. Having a whole bunch of people running around and you hear you hear guns going off all over the place brings quite a lot of disruption in a way different way than we'd like to see kind of our style in Eco. I still really want Nerf guns. I mean, it wouldn't be impossible to kind of shuckle around in there, at least as a mod or so on, but I don't know, maybe do like a 1.2 after release kind of game corner fun acid thing. I don't know, we'll see. We got a lot of things planned ahead that we need to get out of the way first though, but yeah, Nerf bows. This is LARP bow anime snowball fights. Animal husbandry will replace hunting. Hunting will still have a thing. Hunting will definitely still have its role, because animal husbandry will have kind of domesticated meat sourcing, but you are still gonna have dishes with that requires wild game. So there's still gonna be a place for hunting, and same thing for like certain types of pelts and so on and so forth. So did I ever manage a 360 no scope on a deer? Absolutely. Just jump off a cliff, shuffle it on the side. And then we have one final asset that I know I've talked about on a stream or two, up and down, that we are looking into improving, and I'll probably get an earful from Milenko for showing this off. But we do have kind of a prototype of the updated version of the powered cart, if anyone is interested. Any takers? Any takers? Yeah, so the powered cart is a bit of a sad thing at the moment, and if anyone is confused about the powered cart, it's that humongous trike basically that has the thingy. I usually ban them from our towns. So yeah, here we have a bit of a in development thing about it. So it is significantly scaled down to fit better with the avatar. Quality wise, it's upgraded to be more sensible. Oh, it's scaled down more, and so is all of the other kind of cartables as well. So the wood cart, both the regular one, the smaller one, they're all of the general draggable vehicles and general assets have kind of been scaled around to fit better with the new avatar. Considered adding passenger versions of the truck or powered cart. It's definitely been something that I've thought about. But yeah, so recipes for it, we'll see. As I said, it's a prototype, and it definitely looks a lot better. Like the old one is probably, the old powered cart was the first non-dragged vehicle that was added to Eco like ages ago, and it was never really touched or prodded at since then. So it's a huge rework, and there were debates whether or not we wanted to keep it at all. But I really like it. It has potential to fit in it. It just needed to be a bit scaled better, and needed to operate a little bit smoother in terms of turn rates and kind of interactions and so on. So Milenka has been kind of digging into it and making it be a little bit nicer on the side. So that's also future things that are coming post 10.2. How much of it is going to be coming into 10.3, we'll see, but we'll definitely keep everyone up to date. And yeah, now that we've got 10.2 in the playtest bracket, we are kind of finalizing it and getting it done. Hopefully we'll have it sorted out and be stable enough for actual release as soon as possible. So that's going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun to get that out and be able to kind of shift our attention to some of the really cool, completely new things that we're cooking up with the paintings and the painting system and everything surrounding that, as well as the mining rework and explosives and some of that stuff. So that's going to be a lot of cool things coming. It's a Major's vehicle. Everyone knows that. Yeah, the it'll probably be touched up on the sound as well. It's a little bit screechy. Same thing with the steam tractor, is still a little bit screechy. We're looking at tweaking that. And yeah. I think that's probably it for this stream. Feels like we should be wrapping it up here. As for date for actual release of 10.2, it'll probably be very dependent on how the Sea Otter playtest goes. If it stays very stable, if it stays like I said, we might get the chunk stuff in, and we probably want to do that. That probably needs a little bit more testing. But overall, I'm hoping it's going to turn out great, and we're going to be able to release it very quickly. because we have quite a packed year, so you know, making sure we get everything smoothly out on the initial pass. It's gonna be good. And yeah, so you know, it's available on the playtest if you want to help out and poke at it and break it a bit to make sure that it gets into stable quicker. Please do hop in on the Sea Otter playtest server. Oh yeah, as kind of an outro on Alpin, kind of snuck on it. I almost completely forgot it. So yeah, we are adding more professions and shuffling things around a bit for 10.3. Birchen, poke in at technical help on Discord, because it sounds like you're running into either some driver issues or some conflicting software. Because it needs quite a bit more technical details for it. So probably a DXDAG and client logs and whatnot. And we can probably help you out there. Said I'll discuss helicopters at the end of the stream. No, I'll discuss blocks and whatnot. So one of the professions that we are shifting around is oil drilling. Will be kind of dislocated from engineering as it is right now. Let's see if we can find it here. Here we go. So oil drilling is going to be shuffled out of engineering, and it's going to get into basically a scientist profession, which will hold oil drilling, and it'll also have a chemistry and some other new cool things. Painting will be subject under that as well. So there's a lot of things on the horizon. Maybe I can I sneak that? Maybe I can sneak it. Be a bit mischievous. Oh, I didn't rename it. Yeah, no, I'm holding on that one. It wasn't properly renamed on that screenshot, so I'm just gonna hold on it. Yeah, more fluids in general is also something that we're planning on doing. It's not gonna be 10.3, probably gonna be more over to 10.4, 10.5, maybe. We'll see a bit. We want to do a proper upgrade to the oil drilling, oil pipelines, as well as involving more pollution sources. So having things like wastewater or general like industrial sewage and so on is likely going to be involved there. We also want to look at, instead of having just played out flow rate as you have now. So a good example, if you have, say, a steam engine or a blast furnace or something that takes pure, like, clean water as an input. At the moment, it's just eating outright in flow rate, so like 0.3 of a liter per tick, basically. We want to change it out so it actually has a volume requirement, so say, 20 liters a minute or and so on, and then you could connect it to a tank and you can have a larger storage of that liquid. Does this mean oil pumps will actually have connecting pipes? Yes, that pipe slot on them. We basically have two kind of ways of it. One, we wanted to look into fracking and ground water pollutant stuff. So you've got basically you've got your drills and pump jacks that gives you access to the raw oil reservoir, which allows you to just pull oil out of it. Once it's depleted down to a certain level, you're gonna need to replace the pump jacks with things like a fracking tower or something, where you're pumping water into the ground, or to kind of pressurize the ground to push more oil out of it. So there's going to be a more dynamic play for the later material acquisitions. But that's going to be its own kind of depth into it, and a lot of things that is still still kind of being drafted and designed for. So I'm not going to go into super detail of it, as things change, things might not happen, things, you know, might take a weird turn and go super in depth in it. So how much that's going to involve, like pure out chemistry and wiggling around with liquids and pipes and pipelines and so on, we'll see. I kind of want to go absolutely crazy with it, because I like chemistry, find it fascinating. So, you know, we'll see how much I can push it while still keeping it somewhat casual and sane enough to keep it kind of approachable in that manner. Offshore oil rigs, it'd be interesting, but like it would need to be very distinguishable either by object type or, you know, like material type. But yeah, there's, you know, crazy amount of things planned this year, and it's going to be an absolute roller coaster going through it, and we're going to try to keep all the information kind of flowing either on Discord or on our dev streams. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and, you know, if you're interested, keep your eyes peeled, and keep on those out on the Discord to get that information easiest, as that's generally where I'm mostly active on our media outlets. So yeah, you know, wish you all a continued great weekend, and excellent outro horn there. Yeah, no, thank you everyone for participating and hopping on. Christian, any plans for fish farms? The fish traps is probably your closest at the moment, but we might be looking over doing something with that for the maintenance stuff, with like input ingredients and so on. So, you know, stay tuned. More information about 10.3 things will be coming out after 10.2 release. Hope everyone had a good time, and I'll catch you on the next one.